Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of November. I hope you're well. I know these are late and I very much appreciate you waiting for me. So, what do I have to tell you? There will be an extended at the end of this reading if it resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper. That is the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is the 6-month overview that I did for each of the signs back in July. Obviously, there's only 2 months of that left now, so I've knocked them down accordingly. If you haven't had a chance to see them and you would like to, that's, like I say, the second link. Is there anything else? I don't think there's anything else. Let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Aries. Here we go. We have the 6 of Pentacles in your recent past. That's nice to see. Current energy for Aries, please. Queen of Pentacles. And the 6 of Wands. Coming towards you for November, which is very nice indeed. We have the Page of Swords at the bottom of the deck there, followed by the High Priestess. We'll be coming back to that for sure. Let's get some clarifiers and see what's going on here. But this looks very positive, Aries. Very positive indeed. Tell me about the 6 of Pentacles, please. Why is that here for Aries? Thank you. We have the Page of Wands and the Emperor. Very welcome indeed. That's the Aries card in the Major Arcana. Tell me about the Queen of Pentacles, please. We have the 4 of Pentacles. Oh, good Lord. Well, the Moon and the 9 of Wands dropped out there, but I'm going to put them back in because they did drop to the right. The Moon is the card of Cancer in the Major Arcana, and it deals with things that are hidden, yet to be revealed. And the 9 of Wands can sometimes be a card of resilience, something like that, and that would seem to be appropriate for what I'm seeing on the table here. It's also a card of boundaries. Perhaps you've discovered places where you didn't have any, but we'll give them an opportunity to come back out again if they want to. Tell me about the Queen of Pentacles, please. We have the 2 of Pentacles. And what about the 6 of Wands? We have the Hierophant, card of Taurus in the Major Arcana. 9 of Swords. Oh shit, let's get one more. And the Page of Cups. That's 3 pages in the same read. We have the Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. And this is fitting. Though there's something niggling me about this reading, Aries, and it started in the meditation. Before I even started the camera recording, there was a distraction. It's like mind kept going back to problem-solving, like material issues that are in front of me. And I'm interested to see that there are so many Pentacle cards here on the table. It's almost like part of you is wanting to contemplate higher truths, almost. We've got the Page of Swords, the High Priestess, and the Ace of Swords sat behind that there. And there are ways in which you are perhaps trying to see the world differently, trying to process information differently. Because the sword suit is all about the cerebral, you know, it's all about the ways in which we interpret the information that comes into our brain here. But there is something that is trying to shift here into a different direction because the Page of Swords is that beginning card. And it's associated with not just the acquisition of knowledge, but then the application of that knowledge in a new direction in some way. And we have the Ace of Swords, indicating those new ideas that come in. But we've got the High Priestess sat slap bang in the middle of it. It could be more, you know, things of a more spiritual nature. That seems to be where you want to go. The reading, the shadow cards underneath the reading, but then we have this whole confluence of Pentacle cards in your recent past and your present, which seem to be stopping you from being able to focus directly on where it is that you want to be. But the thing is, I don't feel like it's a negative thing, because it's almost like there's a possibility of you becoming a little ungrounded in the directions that you're headed. Oh, you know, it's kind of like that feeling of just going, fuck this, I just actually want to sit and contemplate my navel, you know, but there are material considerations that need your attention at this time. And so, I mean, yeah, we see reference to it here. The path through is that middle place where you can hold both at the same time. You can do the material things, you can, you know, be grounded and deal with your duties and responsibilities as they are in front of you, and yet also make time for the application of these higher truths to your perception of your life and what it's about. But this is making sense. So we start off in your recent past with the Six of Pentacles. There. It's a card that historically has always chafed at me somewhat. I don't really like this card in the way in which it's depicted here. Right? You know, it's got good connotations. We can see charity and things like that, but there's always this notion of the deserving poor that I see in this card, and that kind of rankles with me a little bit. We have, you know, a person here who is down on their luck, and we've got some benefactor coming along and offering but a single coin out of a bag of many. Now, what rankles me is this here, because this is somebody who has made a judgment about your situation and their situation, and they're going, I'll let you have one coin. It feels like a kind of breadcrumbing in some ways. But it does also speak about bringing a sense of equilibrium, you know? But now I say that, and I'm looking at this image, I don't feel like the equilibrium is there, actually. You think you might have had a minor leg up by somebody in the recent past, but it's nowhere near sufficient to put you on, well, nothing even slightly approaching an equal standing. Because ultimately you're still sat under that tree. Now, we have the first of the pages appear in the clarifiers underneath here. Now, I often say that that page is a precursor to movement, rather than movement itself. But it feels like in the recent past, perhaps with a leg up by somebody, some sort of support in some way or another, and it might have been pecuniary, it might have involved money, but Pentacles are energetic currency to me, so it could have been time, care, effort, love, money, you know, but it's a small contribution to a bigger issue that you seem to be having. It's not enough to fix it, but maybe it is just enough to give you faith that moving forwards is something that you want to do, rather than sitting planted underneath a tree. Now, obviously, I am talking in metaphor here, so I don't think that you're all actually literally sat under a tree waiting for someone to come and give you a pentacle. But this Page of Wands and Emperor combination down here feels like it was just enough for you to remember who the fuck you were, if I can put it like that. I'm gonna pull some extra cards. Why not? Let's do this. Because the Page of Wands is enthusiasm, it's excitement, it's creative inspiration. But it feels somewhat muted, a little. You know, what we don't have is this, you know, raging, fizzing excitement, which is often what I usually feel when I see the Page of Wands. It is that frisson of excitement about, you know, something that you're about to go and do. Rather, it feels like a marshalling of resources, a marshalling of energy, and going, oh, hang on. I've been missing something all of this time. What was the thing that I was missing? And the thing that you are missing is that you're the fucking Emperor. Somehow that seems to have passed you by at some point. This year has been pretty difficult for Aries. It's been exhausting, in fact. And maybe you've realised that you've sat still for long enough now. I was talking to someone yesterday and I said these exact words. Just dropping cards. Hang on, let me pick that up. The inaction is death for a fire sign. And I was speaking in relation to Leo, but it's interesting that I didn't say Leo, I said fire sign. Because it's true right across the board for Leo, Sagittarius and Aries. And in fact, I think of all of you, Leo is probably the one that can deal with it the best. Aries and Sagittarius, there's always a need for movement, right? A need for the new. No. And it feels like you're remembering what it was like to be powerful. It doesn't feel like you are there yet at all. But there are certain things, maybe they've been dropping in. And you remember when you just felt, you know, calm about doing this thing and excited about strategizing for this thing. And it's like all of those things have been entirely absent from the discourse this year, your own internal discourse. But you're remembering them and you're like, oh, hang on. No. I'm the fucking emperor. I've done this before. I can do this again. Tell me about the emperor, please. Yeah. We've got the Ace of Cups and the Star. It's a return to hope. It's a return to thinking about the future. Now, I noticed that we have the Six of Swords at the bottom of the deck, and it does feel like there are things that you've had to leave behind this year. And they don't feel like they're the obvious things, right? So we're not talking about you necessarily moving away from relationships and situations, although it may well be that that's exactly what you have done. More, it feels like this has been a process of renewal for you, but in that cruel way where you kind of get kicked down first and almost, you know, taken apart, disassembled. And so when you're sitting there in all of your respective pieces on the floor and you're like, fuck, where do I go from here? I don't go anywhere, you know? It's like when I was ill a couple of months ago, for 2 days, I was more ill than I've been in years. No, not at death's door or anything, but just like, I am really, really ill. And you know, when it's happened for more than about 24 hours and then suddenly you're like, I'm probably never going to be well again. I can't even remember what it was like to be able to breathe out of both of my nostrils. I've taken it for granted so much, you know. It sounds silly, but there's a similar sort of situation going on here. You felt disempowered for so long, it's almost like you've forgotten what it is to be an emperor. Well, what's happened in the process is probably a great deal of shadow work. There's probably a great deal of processing of old situations, but you're coming back into touch with yourself. And it's coming from a place of much more forgiveness and compassion, and it's given you something to approach the future with. Whether that is more of a sense of balance, more of a sense of personal control, rather than, you know, external circumstance control. Whatever it is, it feels like recently everything's turned. I want to point you out the fact that we had that Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck as well. So we now have 2 aces on the table, and this very much suggests to me that this is a process of reassembly that is going on now. Right? So when we move into your current energy, we have the Queen of Pentacles. And like I said, there is a very rooted and grounded aspect to that. But there's also nurture and there's also care. Now, at points this year, I feel almost certainly that you have not taken care of yourself in the material sense, in the physical sense, as well as you could have done. But I feel like that is changing. And some of you really could have been quite depressed this year. And when you are truly in the grip of a depression, even something like brushing your teeth feels like a major accomplishment. Or if you don't manage to get it done, it seems like so fucking pointless, you know? But this shift is here. And so now you are attending. Now you are attending to the material things. They're starting to be important again, right? So this puts the shadow cards into a much clearer perspective for me now. This is the process of your year. Right? It's the truths that you have seen about yourself, about people that you live with, you know, like every single aspect of your life here. Ace of Swords, 3 aces on the table. In fact, look at this Ace of Swords here. Look, she's turned into a tree. This tree symbolism is everywhere. I feel like you've been really, really static this year, Aries. And with this High Priestess, there's an acquisition of wisdom and knowledge that has occurred during this time, right? There's been no movement outwardly, but inwardly there have been all sorts of shifts and changes. And so you go now from taking that ace, we've got Page of Wands and the Ace of Wands, we've got the Page of Cups and the Ace of Cups, and we've got the Ace of Swords and we've got the Page of Swords as well, right? It's about you taking these things and doing something with them now, right? They're small steps, but they're in the right direction. Movement is starting to happen again. That's what I'm getting at. And so rather than this being just what you want to do and these things are distracting, it's almost like this is what you have been doing this year, whether it felt like that or not. And when people talk about, you know, spiritual awakenings and all that sort of thing, you know, kind of imagine yourself standing there, you know, in a big column of light, receiving all of this infinite wisdom from the universe. And actually, the reality of it is usually something rather different. It's you walking around feeling a bit like shit, like, holy shit, look at all of these things now that I see about my life that are not right. You know, here are bits of my shadow that I did not see before, and now I have to try and take ownership of it. And God, that's not very nice. Like, how do I do that? And also, you know, you start looking at things and saying, oh, well, what's the fucking point? Yeah. All right. There's a period of consolidation that comes following a spiritual awakening, where you have to incorporate all of this into you, but you also still have to honor the fact that you're a human being and you're here and you have a human life to live. You know, I'm reminded of that Chinese, I think it's a Chinese proverb, and it says, you know, before enlightenment, chop wood, collect water. After enlightenment, chop wood, collect water. It's like, no matter how strong the spiritual downloads, the insights that you see about yourself, you know, the layers of life that are revealed to you, when you start detaching from, say, societal norms, established structures that have been in your life, whether those are, you know, marriage or, you know, a particular kind of cultural setup that you've lived in, you suddenly see that there is so much more out there. You know, there are so many things that you can't see, and yet, you know, whether they're planetary energies or your higher self talking to you, you know, any of these things, right? There's so much that you can't see that has an effect on your life, that sometimes you can quite lose interest in what is in front of you, but the interest is returning. It's like the contemplation, the download's done, the wisdom has been gained. Now is a period of how you hold both. How you take everything that you have learned and you apply it to this physical reality as it sits in front of you. Now, like I said, this is Queen of Pentacles. It's about taking care of yourself, and it's about taking care of your business, whatever that is. So it's making sure, you know, on a very surface level, that your bills are paid and that you've got enough money coming in, you've got food in the cupboards, you know, and that you're actually eating that food for a start, you know. Making sure that you're drinking plenty of water, you know, just actually taking care of yourself in whatever way you have not been recently. So we've got this Four of Pentacles and the Two of Pentacles here. Now, the Four of Pentacles is called the miser card, and often it's about holding on to things that too tightly, like far too tightly. You want to cling on to this. And Aries, we've talked about this predisposition that Aries has towards controlling their environment. You're not the only sign that does it, but it is associated closely with your sign. Now, my intuition says that this year has been spent for you in a state of rather severe disempowerment, right? And the reason why this is all coming up here is because there are things that you can control and there are things that you cannot control. And this year has been full of things that you could not control. And you have internalized that, right? You're going, oh shit, well, what's the fucking point of me, you know? Well, what's happened is this change in understanding, this shift in understanding here, is that there are things that you can control and there are things that you cannot control. The thing that you can control is you, the way that you choose to react to situations, or whether you take bait, whether you don't. But for you, the Emperor is very much an internal concept, right? It is you. This is your identity. You were born to lead. You're born to control X, Y, and Z. But that all starts inside first. And within that, there needs to be built a level of redundancy in your need to control things, right? So, yes, the Emperor is in control, but there are things that will happen that require him to be able to be adaptable, right? He can strategize and create, you know, say like these, you know, tabletop kind of war games, right? You can do all of that, but what you're missing is where other people come in, other situations come in, and they can knock your plan, right? Worst comes to the worst, they can absolutely destroy your plan, right? As a general on the battlefield, as one would assume that the Emperor is, he does still have his armor on underneath his kingly robes there. He needs to be able to look at the situation and adapt his plan in order to succeed. Okay? And it feels to me like knowing what to accept and knowing what not to accept are really important things for you here, right? And they're not necessarily the same as what you want and what you don't want. I hope this is making sense, right? So when we come down to here, this Four of Pentacles and Two of Pentacles actually feels to me more like knowing what is important that needs to be, you know, held on to. What is really critical for you. And for you, Aries, it's that sense of self, because that does feel rather like it's been set adrift this year. It's knowing what to hold on to and then knowing how to juggle everything else, right? Earth, the Pentacles suit is all earth. And so it's slow moving. It's the frustrating details of things. Fire signs don't tend to find that interesting, you know. And it is very much stuff and things, but it's also about energy conservation, energy expenditure. Even priorities and values, if you want to look at it like that. Tell me about these two cards here. What do we have there? Four of Pentacles again. It's just flown out. Now it's about what you need to hold on to rather than what you need to release. Like, it could be that this year has felt like it has taken a lot from you, but you're still here, Aries. You're still here. And I feel like that the fire is starting to be stoked inside again, right? I often see that card as a resurgence of the will to live. So you can lose your will to live without being suicidal, right? I've been there, I've certainly been there, and that's why I can say that with some certainty. You know, it's when the world loses its colour and you don't see the point and it doesn't seem to matter what you do, there's no change that you can effect that makes anything any better. And it's all kind of a dissolution of your sense of self. That absolutely bites into your will to live. And, you know, after a while, it's just this small, tiny, flickering flame where it used to be an inferno. The Ace of Wands indicates to me a return of that, a willingness to engage, a willingness to experience, a willingness to accept what is coming towards you and deal with it with grace, but also start forging the kind of life that you want for yourself. Let's get one more card for this. Four of Pentacles and Two of Pentacles, please. It's the one. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. It's the Lover's card. Card of conscious co-creation. The card of stepping up and making decisions about your life. Now, where have you stepped back, Aries, and just gone, well, it doesn't fucking matter what I do. Nothing's going to change. Like, I have no power. I can't change anything. I can't make anything better. Because I think that's probably a conversation that you've had with yourself a few times this year. Nine of Pentacles, all about good resource management, where you put your energy and where you choose not to put your energy anymore. Now, because it's the 9, it's about putting it all into you and you personally, and now making decisions, big decisions. The energy is supporting it at the moment. We've got Scorpio going into, Mars going into Scorpio rather, very, very soon. And, gosh, if it's, when is it? I feel like it's next week as I'm recording this. Maybe the 10th or the 11th of November, something like that. But not an astrologer, I just preface that. It's just what I picked up somewhere. And that is all about movement. It is all about action. You know, Aries and Scorpio, the joint rulers of the Tower. And although we don't see it here, I feel like for you, it's been a long, slow, drawn-out tower where it was like a slow, controlled demolition that you watched. And it happened just level by level. And, you know, at the outset, you were like, no, don't touch my tower. Don't touch that. I spent ages building that. And then the first level of it went at the top. You know, and then month by month, it's almost like another level of the tower is kicked out. And then for the last month or two, perhaps you've just been staring at the rubble and going, well, fuck, there is my fucking tower. It's gone now. What the fuck am I supposed to do now? Nothing, you know. Mars and Scorpio. It says it's time to start moving. It's time to start doing something. Marshalling your resources, putting them into you, seeing what is left. Because I don't think that the situation is as dire as it has felt, because there's been, you know, whatever has been blown up in the tower for you this year, then it was time for it to leave. It was time for it to go. But the way that it came down, there was stuff for you to learn every level of the process, you know. Like I said, this last couple of months where you've been stuck in this kind of consolidation, it's obviously doing its work, because now your mind is turning towards the future, right? It is absolutely happening there. It's mad that Ace of Swords, Page of Swords, Ace of Wands, Page of Wands, Ace of Cups, Page of Cups here. So what we have coming towards you is the Six of Wands. And this is a wonderful card. This is a Leo card. It's one that speaks about victory. Right? But it's a bit more than that. It's because there's always this idea that there's a fairly public aspect to it. You know, in the standard Rider-Waite, you've got a chap, you know, riding back into town on a horse, and he's obviously, you know, been in some sort of big battle, and now he's coming back victorious, and the whole town is like, yay, well done, thank you for saving us, you know. The Six of Wands in here is a ballerina on a stage, you know, she's being seen. It's like, you don't just win, but you're seen to be winning. Now, I think part of what has been flipped around for you this year is what your idea of success is, like what success looks like to you. And perhaps you've had to, you know, sit and work out where that comes from. Because not all versions of what we think is successful are particularly healthy, you know. But we've got the Hierophant, the Nine of Swords, and the Page of Cups here, which is a very interesting combination, because this Hierophant is more earth energy, right? And there seems to be a lot of it here. It's about grounding yourself, stabilizing yourself. But the Hierophant, whilst he annoys me in quite a few ways, like I don't enjoy a lot of the aspects of this card, because it does speak to rigidity and inflexibility. And I think that perhaps it was aspects of that within your character that have caused you the most pain this year. You know, where you were able to be more fluid, where you were able to be a little bit more dynamic in your responses to things rather than internalizing them. I feel like those things went more easily for you this year. But the Hierophant is about commitment. You know, it's sometimes the wedding card. I like this Hierophant. We've got more Pentacles. We've got the Eight of Pentacles. It feels like a commitment to putting yourself back on your feet and creating, like I said, that foundation for yourself, but not just foundational now. Like, whether you've realized it or not, the foundational stuff has actually been going on while you felt like you were disempowered. Now it's time to start building on that and to be seen. Yeah. Dedicating yourself to the work of rebuilding yourself. Yeah. If you've been isolating yourself, it is time to start meeting people. And if you haven't had any people around you, if this is one of the things that's been missing for you, then I think that you can expect new people to begin arriving very soon. We've got that Knight of Cups there, followed by the King of Pentacles, interestingly. That's Pisces and Taurus energies, respectively. But notice how pentacle heavy this reading is. King of Pentacles under there, Queen of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles. You know, the earth energy is really, really strong. It's not about fast, flashy movement here. You know, it's almost like you were stopped, dead. No more movement now, Aries, until you have dissolved yourself into goo and rebuilt yourself. Whilst you may not feel like you are rebuilt yet, like I said, it's like the seeds have been planted. Like the framework is there now. So we have the Eight of Pentacles, the Three of Cups, and the Fool, the other card of Aries in the Major Arcana. It says commit to filling your life with the things that you love and trust that what has happened this year not only was for your highest good, but actually puts you in a much better position to be able to create the life that you want for yourself rather than sabotaging it, potentially, you know? Now, this Nine of Swords is interesting because one would assume, given the nature of the reading, that it would be more likely that this Nine of Swords would appear, you know, closer to the beginning of it. But I actually think that it's quite important because if you've watched any of my videos for any length of time, you'll know that I have this kind of arbitrary rule about swords, which is where they are depicted up, they are good. Where they are depicted pointing down, say in, you know, like the Seven of Swords or something like that, then they tend to have fairly negative and very challenging interpretations. But the Nine of Swords is the exception because in this card, they're stacked across the wall there. Right? Now, what we have is someone in a state of great anxiety there, right? You know, sleeplessness, insomnia, that sort of thing. And we can see this card indicating everything from, you know, mental illness and, you know, chronic depression, right through to just worrying about whether you turn the gas off, right, before you went to bed. It's a stupid example, but you know what I mean, right? But the important thing about these cards is that they do not obey that arbitrary rule, okay, that I have. And it's not true across all of my decks, but just like 95% of them, it is the case. They're in a state of neutrality there. They're stacked up neutrally across the wall, right? So whether they're used as weapons or whether they are, you know, useful tools, all depends on the perspective that you have when you walk into that room and you see the swords there. Yeah, what a wonderful collection of swords. It's very nice. Or, oh shit, I'm gonna die. And what that says is that often there isn't necessarily a basis in reality for that which you have been concerned about, that which you have been worrying about. So whether it is that you're worrying about the fact that you don't feel like an Aries, and maybe you never will again, or whether it's that you're afraid to start moving back out into the world again because so much has been taken from you. You know, it says what you're worrying about, it's not really there. You know, it's almost when you wake up in the middle of the night and that pair of jeans that you casually tossed onto the back of a chair now is, you know, some sort of weird scorpion or something, by the half light that you know, maybe the street light or the moon is shining in through your window. It's that kind of energy. And then we have the Page of Swords, who is looking at the Nine of Wands. He's actually looking at this fish in the cup, but he's facing the Nine of Wands there. All pages indicate, for me, a new direction, as it were. A new start of sorts. It's the lowest rung on the court hierarchy, and it's everybody's got to fucking start somewhere, right? But here they are. They're starting there and they're ready to go in on a new direction. Now, obviously, you as an Aries adult who has been alive for, you know, X many decades, for something new to come in indicates a movement away from what was and towards what now is, or what it is that you're wanting to create. You know, there's a movement there and it goes off in a slightly different direction. Now, you have not just all the pages. I noticed that the only pages that are missing and Aces of the Pentacles, actually. You've got the pages, but you've also got that new dynamic energy of the Aces coming in. Now, that is pure potential, Aries. And I think that it's interesting what is missing here as much as what is here, because the only two things that are missing are that Ace of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. Now, given that there's a pentacle heavy read here anyway, it feels to me like you need to utilize the energies of all of the Aces and all of the pages that you have in order to cultivate for yourself that Ace of Pentacles. What are the changes that you want to bring in? I bring you back to this card of conscious co-creation here. You know, how is it that you can look differently? How can you react emotionally differently to that which you thought was a problem? You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but I mean, fuck, it's going to piss you off as well, right? Like, we know what that is. 2021 has been a year of rebirth for quite a few signs, most of them in some way or another, to be honest. And Aries, it seems like you are no exception to this at all. But the good news is that the hardest part of this has passed. I do genuinely believe that. You know, everything has peaked now. And from this point on, what you choose to do is what you are going to be building for yourself, right? There's no more of this, well, I'm taking this, I'm being the universe here, I'm taking this, and I'm taking that, and I'm going to just push you over there, you know, I'm going to lob a stone at you while you're not looking, that kind of thing, right? It seems like you've been dealing with an awful lot of curveballs this year, and drained isn't even the word. But you've turned a corner. The pages here, all of them, testify to that. High Priestess. Whether you know it or not, you've picked up something really, really valuable this year. And if you can start turning towards the future, as I feel like you are, holding all of these, you know, new insights and these new wisdoms here, also like, but I'm a human and I've got to live a human existence. How can I mash these things together and live a life that is authentic to me now? Because you've changed, Aries. I think you've changed for the better. And I think that you've been being prepared for something much more suited to you and your spirit moving forwards. But I understand that it can take sometimes a little while for you to really appreciate that and be comfortable with that. So, Aries, I'm going to leave it here. All in all, like, November looks really, really good to you, and certainly a distinct improvement from what you've seen in the last few months, if you are willing to go with it, right? You catch yourself, you know, starting to feel like disempowered and all fucking, it's like, no. Give yourself a stiff talking to. Look at what you've been through this year and you're still fucking here. You are so resilient, right? You can totally cope with being reborn, over and over again. And that's what's happened here. But what is on the other side of a rebirth is always better than what you had when you went into it, right? So I actually am going to leave it there. If you want to join me over on Vimeo, we're going to look at November a little deeper. Then that's the first link in the description box. If not, no shade. I will see you next time for the mid-month readings. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'm rooting for you, okay? Take care. I'll see you soon.